Saxon Algebra 1/2, lesson 107. Students, today's lesson is a weirdo. We're going to talk about Roman numerals. Hopefully you have seen Roman numerals before. You kind of get the gist of them. You've seen them around in the world a little bit here and there. But here's the thing about Roman numerals. They're useless for math because you can't compute with them. You can express numbers for expressing a value, right? In other words, you can think of any number, well, within reason. You can't very easily do millions or billions, I don't think. But any number up through the thousands, you can express that value in Roman numerals. So it's okay for doing that. What it's horrible at, it doesn't work for calculations. So if you want to even add 2 plus 2 and show it's 4, it doesn't really work for that. It only works for expressing values, not for calculations. Okay, so how do you express values with it? Well, you know that in our Arabic system, what we use today is called Hindu Arabic. Let's write that down just so you know it. The Hindus and the Arabians came up with our system of numbers, which rocks. It's called base 10 because we have 10 different digits, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Not 10. 10 is 2 digits. But we use 10 digits. It's called base 10, and it's fantastic. It's a super flexible, dynamic system of numbers that we can use for all kinds of calculations as we're learning, right? But these wacky Romans, not so much. So here's the way theirs work. The value for in our numbers, let's just make a little chart. It's not a very big chart. So you can see that what they did was they took the numbers and they worked on the 1s and the 5s, right? Powers of 10, I guess I should say. And then 5 times the power of 10, right? 5 and 10, 50, 100, 500, 1,000. And they use letters, what we consider to be letters, right? Normally we put the lines above and below. I'm not going to put that in every one, but you know that's kind of the way it's done. All right, so here's the chart. I want to make it look more like a chart because, you know, I love a good chart. I mean, who doesn't, right? So this is the Hindu Arabic system, and this is the Roman value that corresponds. Okay? And we use this kooky system. Oh, 2 other problems with the Roman problems. There's no place value. You know how we build a number and it's got a 1's place, a 10's place, a 100's place, a 1,000's place, and then you can go down on the decimal side too, right? 1/10th, 100th. They don't have that. They just make a chunk of letters and let that equal a number. That's limiting. And the other problem, they have no 0. And that's very limiting too, isn't it? But they did have a fun way of building numbers out of these. And as you've probably learned, it goes like this. The number 1 is I. The number 2 is I. The number 3 is I. Spoilers, the number 4 is not I. The number 4 we write as 1 before 5. 5 is 5. Then we go 6 is 5 plus 1. 7 is 5 plus 2. 8 is 5 plus 3. and 9. Okay, now we switch over. Instead of adding to 5, we're going to subtract 1 from 10. So what we see is if a smaller number, they're letters, but they're numbers. Let me just write it down and then I'll explain to you. These are the 2 rules for making sense of these jumbles of letters that we're going to get. I'm going to give you a minute to copy it, and then I'm going to explain what this even means. Okay, you're copying it right now. I'll give you another bit longer in case you're confused why I'm not talking. I'm being quiet so you can copy. I'm staring out the window. If you finish before I start talking again, you can stare out the window too. Okay, let's break this down. And I'm going to do the second part first because that's the easier one. If a smaller number comes after a larger number, we add it. A good example of that is the number 6. We write it as VI. V stands for 5. I stands for 1. 1 is smaller and it's coming after a larger number. So that's this situation. So we say this is 5 plus 1. We add the smaller number, and that's how we get the 6. Okay? So that's illustrating this rule. However, if we want to illustrate this rule, 9 would be a good example. IX, right? The smaller number is 1. The larger number is 10. The smaller number came before the larger number, so we subtract it. So it's 10 minus 1. Notice I had to change the order of the way the letters are presented. Here I left them the same. Here I have to subtract the smaller from the larger, but that's how I get the 9. Okay, so these 2 rules are what we need to translate Roman numerals into Hindu Arabic numbers. We're going to do a few examples, but I want to just show you this. On page 333, John gave you a table that shows how to write every number from 1 through 50 in Roman numerals. All right? And then here's some great tips, right? If we have the same letter in a row, that means multiply it or add it. You can think of it as adding it too, right? 3 times 1 or 1 plus 1 plus 1. You get the same answer. Okay, so let's practice writing some other numbers. And that's all we're going to do with this, you guys. We're not going to spend it. Roman numerals are just kind of like they're kind of like a magic trick, like a card trick. If you learn one, that's cool. You can show people and they'll be impressed. And you'll probably forget it over time. But if you ever want to remember it, you can look it back up and be like, oh, yeah, that's how this trick works. Roman numerals are the same way. You don't need to remember this. You'll figure it out and then you'll put it in the back of your brain. And if you ever need it again, you'll think about it and go, oh yeah, that's right, I can do this. All right, ready? Example 107.1. We're supposed to write this number in Roman numerals. Oh, Lord have mercy. All right, well, we need our chart again. I like to write the Hindu Arabic numbers first because that's easier for me to remember. And I just do 1s and 5s, right? Then you have to remember the letters. I, V, X, L, C. C I always remember as 100 cents in a dollar. So the C of cents works for me. And then D and M. These are easy for me to remember. This gets a little crazy. All right, so how are we going to figure this out? All right, what helps is to take this number and break it down. It's 3,000 plus 400 plus 90 plus 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to work on each of those separately. And we're going to be careful because we remember that the digit that comes before each of these, like 4 and 9 and 40 and 90, we're going to use that little subtraction trick, right? So we're going to be aware of that. All right, but let's just try the basics. For 3,000, we'll do MMM. Okay, now we don't have to put plus signs. We're just going to make this one big string, but I'm going to kind of put little gaps just so that you can see how I came up with it. 400, okay, we could do 4 of those, but it's better to do a C before a D, right? 100 subtracted from 500 gives us the 400, right? So there's that. There's that. Now we need to do 90. Okay, we're going to do the same trick. We could do 50 plus 4 tens, but that's not the way we do the number that comes before. We're going to do 100 minus 10, so it will be XC. Okay, that's this. I'll do a single underline for the 90. And then 3, okay, 3 we don't have to work backwards. We just go boom, boom, boom. All right, so that is the answer. MMM, CD, XC, III. Weird, right? Keep this handy when you're doing your homework. And this is what I'd like you to memorize as best you can. Write it in the cover of your book. Do it right now. Write it in the cover of whatever book you're using. Or write it on a piece of paper. And remember, it's on page 333. Are you copying it? Copy it. Copy it now. It's easier just to copy it than to have to look it up in your book later. That's annoying. I have oftentimes what I call reverse laziness. It means that I am lazy, but I want to be lazy in efficient ways, right? I don't want to be lazy in ways that actually is going to make more work for me. Like being too lazy to write this down and saying, oh, I'll just copy it later from page 333. That's more work than just writing it down now. So I'm all for being, let's not say lazy, let's say efficient, right? I don't like to waste energy on things that aren't necessary. But this to me is one of them. I don't want to just postpone this and do more work later because I'm going to have to drag out my book and look at the page. I'd rather just write it down now. Okay, this time we're going to go in the opposite direction. John gives us a number in Roman numerals, and we have to decode it. Okay, you write it down. I'll double check. All right. So we're looking for that pattern of any smaller numbers coming before a big number means subtract. Okay, so let's start. D and C, let's compare those. Okay, D means 500, C means 100. So those are going down in order, so that's fine. So it'll be 500 plus 100, right? Plus another 100. Now what about L? That's 50. And then X is 10. Okay, so we're still going in order. We're still going from bigger to smaller. That means we don't have to do any wacky backwards numbers. L is 50. X is 10. Here comes our first example. I is 1, V is 5. That means we have a smaller number before a larger number. That means we subtract. So this we can write as 5 minus 1. So I'll write plus 4. Make sense? And so our number is 500, 600, 760, right? We add all these together, those together, and those together to create the place value numbers that we want. So that would be 764. That's the right answer. Oh gosh. Oh gosh, oh gosh. Okay, now you know how to do it. Let me just show you. The challenges for your homework, write the Roman numeral for 4, 9, and 34. Oh, those are much easier. We did that giant number, 3,493. The homework's much easier. And look at your letters are not too horrible compared to the one that we did, right? So there's the chart again, our key, as John calls it. Make sure you have that information handy and you should be fine. Lesson 107 is a wacky little side story. We are not going to spend any more time on Roman numerals. Oh, my voice cracked. Roman numerals. 107 is done. Are you happy? I am. Look, almost done with this week. Yay! Thank you, my lovely students. Goodbye.